tonight. They withdrew the,
Okay, planning board. We are live. We are recording. Phone lines are open. Go for it.
Thanks very much. Good evening and welcome to the first meeting of the Town of East Hampton Planning Board for 2023. Today is January 11th. It is also, I'll lead off with our farewell meeting with Will Highland, who's been one of our able planners for the last, what, 3?
About
2 years. And what it feels like. Will is has been an incredibly diligent, and really his reports are great. And we're going to miss him a lot, but he's moving on to more populous places, so with more issues. So I hope we all wish you well and hope you do great there. I know you will. We want to save that for the end because we've got a nice full house here. So we have a few matters on for subdivision and site plan review. We also have a public hearing scheduled for 7 p.m. We're going to try and get as many things done up to the time of the public hearing, and after that, we've got a couple of matters involving the Wayne Scott Commercial Center that are on for regular meeting scheduling issues and things like that. We'll get to that last. So we'll start off with Glen Valley Associates preliminary. Is Glen Valley's representative there? Thanks very much. Okay, and it's turn. So go ahead.
Yeah, Sarah's up there. This was an application to subdivide an existing parcel located on Mulford Avenue and Old Northwest Road in East Hampton. The parcel contains an existing 50-foot wide scenic easement and 5-foot wide utility easement on that abut Northwest Road and the north-south of eastern property line. The proposed subdivision will result in 2 conforming lots, as you can see here. A public hearing was held in person and televised on LTV and made available for live stream on December 7th, 2022. One member of the public spoke at the hearing and summarized their comments in written form afterwards, arguing that some town code provisions or requirements concerning open space subdivisions, as noted in Chapter 193 of the Town Code, were not implemented and applied in the process of the board's review of the application. The member of the public noted that in their view, based on their interpretation of the Town Code, that compliance will require a redrawing of the map of the proposed 2-lot subdivision with a separate reserve area lot containing a minimum of the 25% gross lot area in the place of the currently proposed 25% scenic easement, as you can see on the left side of the survey there. Additionally, the member of the public noted that the northwest corner of the tract of land that the applicant is purchasing from the Dittmer estate and or other members of the Dittmer family to Mulford Avenue was left out of the open space preliminary subdivision process. Pursuant to the town's current old file map study plan, these 2 tax map lots were required to be merged together to form a building lot, subject to the 50-foot scenic easement required to be created along its Old Northwest Road frontage. The members of the public noted that if 2 Mulford Avenue had been included in the open space subdivision process, it may have resulted in 3 better, more equally sized building lots together with a minimum of 25% of the gross land area being divided into 1 or more separate reserve area lots. Regarding the requirement of the town code for a redrawing of the map of the proposed 2-lot subdivision with a separate reserve area lot containing a minimum of the 25% gross lot area, the member of the public is correct on this front. However, the planning department suggests the planning board approve the preliminary subdivision map and application as is, and the separate reserve area lot can be incorporated once the application reaches its final subdivision stage. In conclusion, provided the board agrees, the application is ready for approval.
Very well. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
No comments.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that well, obviously the big issue is what came up with public hearing and with respect to the scenic easement versus a separate area. I just, I guess, want to make sure that the council.
We're going to have a question for Nancy.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're talking about something else.
I just want to make sure that Will's memo was great and I think he highlighted the issues, but the issue here is the map is currently drawn with a scenic easement of 25%, which, a member of the public brought up and the planner agrees that ought to be a separate parcel in the final. So can we approve this as is? and incorporate
Yeah,
that
I mean, just for
in
this
the final
preliminary,
subdivision? No
yeah.
problem. Okay, well, in that case, I think it's, as long as the applicant recognizes that that's what we'll be doing. come final.
Yeah.
And you're sort of, okay, well, then I think it's ready for approval.
Very good. Does anybody have anything you want to add on this one? We'll agree it's ready for approval then.
Yes.
There you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess you'll have to work with the planning department to change the map to reflect that it'll be a,
Whoever's replacing Will, I'll work with them.
Reserve.
So, thank you, Will. Appreciate everything.
thank you.
Tim, I think David Buda,
Well,
David Buda could be a good planning board appointment, I think.
we have been fortunate enough to have a reappointment, I should add.
Oh,
Casey. So you can hold your suggestion for. And- I don't know if you're up then.
no, I'm up this year. I'm up this year.
Yeah, okay. Well, and this will be your swan song, Will, so.
Well, I want to, my artist studio is on the public hearing.
Oh, you're,
so-
okay, well,
so-
then you're penultimate.
Yeah.
Is the applicant here on map of Kathleen Dodge? Who's the,
It's Diane Leverrier, and she's not present.
here? But she knows
Yes.
that it's on?
Yep.
What?
Okay, see on the survey there, this application was to divide the original parcel into two individual lots. The property is Zone B residence, which must contain a minimum of 20,000 square feet. Both proposed lots fit this criteria. The planning department has prepared the attached environmental assessment form, parts 2 and 3 for the proposed subwaiver. The planning board should review the document and amend it as necessary. A negative declaration pursuant to secret in chapter 128 of the town code is recommended. In conclusion, once the board adopts the EF parts 2 and 3, then it appears the application will be ready to be scheduled for public hearing.
So if that's all that we have, I guess, there's no, Nancy, we don't have any problem with the applicant not being here on that.
No, I think they probably looked at the memo and decided, there wasn't any issues.
Very good. In that case, Lou?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to say here except that we need to go through the EAF. Decide if we agree with the planning department.
Okay, let me run through that quickly then. Again, as in the past, if there's any matter that they've all been identified by the planning department as no or small impact. I'll read them through. There's 11 of them. And if somebody disagrees with the assessment of the planning department, please stop me. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Nobody? Number 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Okay. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Nobody? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No one? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No one? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No one? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies or public-private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? One on that one. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? No. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? And no one. And finally, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? There you have it.
But Sam, we're saying that there be little or no impact. Is that what, on all those?
All 11, yeah.
Yeah.
You have any that you wanted?
No, I just said there, obviously there's some little impact in energy and everything. I just wanted to remember what the column says. It says little or no impact.
It says no or small impact.
Oh, no or small.
no small impact may occur. Okay? In that case, was the application, well, we've neg-decked it effectively. And is the application ready to be scheduled for a public hearing? All around agree? There you are.
Well, don't we have to formally move for the negative
Do we
declaration though?
Make a motion?
All right, go ahead,
I'll second that, Lou.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Negative. Passed 7-0. And we all agree that it's ready for a public hearing? Very good. All right, so that's that. All right, next is Pete's Garden Center and Service Commercial. And the applicant is there. There you are. Okay. And Tina, that's yours. And Lou, that's yours. Very good.
Okay, this is a wrap-up memo. This was an application to construct an outdoor storage yard with 3 on-site parking spaces, 7 parking spaces in the right-of-way, sidewalk, and additional fencing on a cleared parcel zoned central business in downtown Montauk. The applicant is proposing a garden center use with an associated commercial landscaping use. The parcel is an extension of the business known as Pete's Potting Shed. In August, the ZBA approved a variance for parking to allow 7 parking spaces in the right-of-way where on-site parking would have been required. A public hearing was held in person and by video, publicized on LTV on December 7th, 2022. No members spoke, and we have not received any written comments. The Office of Fire Prevention has issued comments indicating that the proposed project is ADA compliant. Therefore, the items to be approved include the site plan that's up on the screen prepared by Edward Armis Engineering, dated January 12th, 2022. And provided the board agrees, the application is ready for approval. The conditions of approval that have been identified include submission of final approval of the Architectural Review Board, the construction of a sidewalk that connects neighboring sidewalks, and the recording of an on-site easement or highway dedication to guarantee public use is permitted of that sidewalk, and that the coloring of the sidewalk match the existing, that which is already existing in downtown Montauk in this area, and as illustrated on the January site plan to be approved. And finally, drainage structures as shown must also be constructed as approved by the town engineer.
Very well. Thank you very much. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Tara Burke here on behalf of Peter Joyce and Pete's Garden Center. Thank you for your review, Tina. We have no objection to anything. I just wanted to inform you that we are on the ARB schedule for February 9th. And also just a request that either the easement or the highway dedication be a condition of the CO rather than a building permit, just because we're anxious to get things moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we just went up pretty good, so there's not much else to say. I think, you know, the ARB is next, and given those conditions are met, I think we're ready for approval.
Anybody else have anything they want to add on this one?
Thank you.
We're ready? Oh,
We're all okay with the.
the last,
Yeah,
yeah, that's actually a good point.
Should be fine.
I'm good with it. I just want to make sure that we're explicit about it.
Yeah, we have no objection.
Okay, great.
Next is the GSL Shop Edition, and again, Tina and Lou. And I'm sorry, I apologize. The applicant here on that, that's you.
Okay. The site plan application has been made for 139 Springs Fireplace Road and 137 Springs Fireplace Road. The proposal is to construct a new 1-story, approximately 1,200 square foot commercial building addition on 137 Spring Fireplace Road with associated parking and landscaping. The building would serve as an addition to the existing automobile repair garage at 139 Springs Fireplace Road. The applicant is also proposing to merge the 2 parcels, which would result in an approximately 26,000 square foot parcel. Both parcels are currently zoned CI and are situated in East Hampton. Each presently has an access onto Springs Fireplace Road. This is the proposed site plan. You can see one access is remaining. The other access currently exists down here. And it's not shown there. They're proposing to remove that. The northern lot here also has access to Washington Avenue, which is an unimproved roadway in the rear property. Regarding SECRA, this is the type 2 action pursuant to SECRA on the town code. This application was reviewed as a preliminary site plan by the board, and the planning board had issued comments with various requests for additional information in January of 2022. We have discussed some of these throughout and just suggest the applicant ensure that the comments are responded to, and if haven't resulted in plan changes, explain the logic and reasoning in support of their approach. The first additional question the planning board had was that the applicant should provide a narrative with additional details regarding the operation of the auto repair garage, parking configuration, and parking layout. That was a question that was originally issued, and there wasn't a ton of detail in this latest application. Regarding access driveways, that was also discussed during the preliminary site plan review. As mentioned, the applicant is proposing to eliminate an existing curb cut that currently serves 137 Springs Fireplace Road, this southern portion of the property. The elimination of the curb cut would be in the interest of good planning and consolidate access from Springs Fireplace on 139, the 139 parcel. It's great to reduce the number of curb cuts when you can. So we think that's a good aspect of this. Approval from Suffolk County DPW and the Suffolk County Planning Commission is also going to be necessary due to that being a county road. Also, during the preliminary review, the fact that the application is located in Groundwater Management Zone 5 and the SGPA indicated that it would be appropriate for the application to comply with the planning board groundwater protection policy. Of course, automobile garages utilize various chemicals, oils, solvents, fuels, etc. We recommend that the applicant provide detail that describes how this will be managed and disposed of in a manner that protects the environment and groundwater resources. In addition, floor plans were provided. It should be revised to include notations and other pertinent features that show the building is compliant with the planning board policy. Regarding parking and navigation, the site plan prepared by TF Engineering PLLC shows that the dimensions of the parking stalls proposed and the number of parking stalls seem to be compliant with town code. Truck loading space is provided here and was not the minimum length required of 40 feet. It's labeled as 28 feet. So the site plan should be revised to comply with the code in this regard. The parking areas, the north and this portion of the site here would require relief from setback requirements since they are really right on the property line. Adjacent land uses are all commercial and industrial. So the board does have the ability to waive these setbacks should they choose to do so. Generally, navigation aisles throughout the site seem to be compliant with town code, even though this one here is rather narrow. It still meets the 12-foot minimum required for parking at this angle. We just want to make sure that this dimension here is also labeled the eastern property border next to Spring Fireplace Road to ensure that proper navigation throughout the site is provided for. Regarding sanitary services and wastewater, the applicant has provided a septic system design. The calculations show that with the grandfather density, they'll meet density requirements. We want to just confirm that their on-site wastewater treatment system specified meets the town's nitrogen removal criteria. And that, remember that it will also require approval from Suffolk County Department of Health Standards. Landscaping, in the January 2022 memo issued after the preliminary site plan review, the planning board did indicate to the applicant that they would like to see more screening on Springs Fireplace Road to provide a visual buffer from that roadway. The resubmission does indicate that there's some landscaping required, but there's not enough detail in order to determine how sufficient that's going to be. So we are suggesting that a landscaping plan be prepared that provide the detail on species and spacing, to ensure that the plantings will have their intended purpose of providing a buffer. The lighting plan submitted is consistent with planning board standards. The lights will be hung 10 to 12 feet above grade, and the maximum lumen output is below the planning board maximum standards. ARB approval will be required, of course. And so in conclusion, the planning board should consider whether they want to waive site passes for parking throughout the property. We are requesting that the applicant demonstrate compliance with the planning board groundwater protection policy and provide more information on the proposed landscaping design to ensure that appropriate screening is provided.
Where's the 40-foot truck issue?
So I'm gonna blow it up a little bit. This is the proposed truck parking space. It's labeled 14 by 28. It seems bigger. I don't know. It's supposed to be 14 by 40 per the code. So we just need to kind of clarify with the applicant what exactly is going on there.
So the idea is that a truck will come in off of Springs Fireplace, make the left turn and go around those stalls and then park in, it looks like it has a number like 25
Yeah,
or 23.
23.
Yeah, and what, bring the truck in and then back it out?
Yeah.
And it needs to accommodate a 40-foot truck?
No. It needs to be 40 feet.
It needs to be 40
This
feet.
needs to
So,
be 40 feet in length. That's the code requirement for the truck.
so we're not talking about a semi rig. We're not talking about some huge thing.
I can't imagine.
No, I'm saying.
It's a mechanic.
No,
We
no.
don't know, right? We don't know what size truck they want to get in there.
The applicant will tell us, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
she-
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Tina? All right. The applicant wish to be heard.
I don't have much to add, but yes. I suspect that the trucks that come there are the ones you see around town from Napa and the tire people and those ones that deliver supplies to auto
Box
repair.
trucks like that.
Yeah, like that. So we will be providing a landscaping plan. We will be,
You want to identify yourself?
Oh,
sorry, Lori Wiltshire for Land Planning Services, representing James Shelley. Yes, Jim's working on the narrative. And I will have David Rhodes perfect the groundwater protection policy and confirm the nitrogen, that we meet the nitrogen. And we've already contacted a landscaping company to pull that together. We'll make the application to the Suffolk County Department of Public Works. And I think TFB's already made the application to the Health Department.
And so the intention is going to be that all vehicles will enter the property from Springs Fireplace and exit via Washington, correct?
No, there's two-way over here because some people will be coming in.
Is it wide enough?
It is wide enough for, it's 21.71.
What's the code?
It's currently two-way.
Yeah, it is currently two-way. That won't change, because some people will come in here and pay their bill and back out and leave.
Okay.
It's not always gonna be someone who's coming to get their car repaired.
Right. Okay, but we are getting rid of the curb cut, so, okay.
I have a question on the septic system. So I'm confused. It says in the planner's report, it's an other water treatment system. Is that an IA system that we're
Yes.
talking about?
IAOWTS.
Okay. And the flow rates, do we have the flow rates? The grandfather?
They're on the
rates
TFE
and the
plans.
allowable rates? Tina, do we have those?
Yes, we do. And I did look at them and kind of confirm that appropriate rates were used, and I'll bring them up just in a moment. So here's the calculations about kind of the allowable density, right? So, we're taking that on base that you have this from Suffolk County, that this is the density that their grandfather and you.
That would be TF Engineering, yes.
Right. And the allowable density is appropriately calculated based on the remaining lot area. Right, so that's the allowable, the 293.7 GPD. And then here are the calculations for the auto service, office and storage, both existing up here and proposed down here, showing compliance with the values. The only reason I brought up the nitrogen is because I tried to look at the system that had been specified, and I didn't see the effluent statute, the effluent parameters there. So I could compare it to our standards. So we just want to, confirm that. I'm sure Suffolk County Health Department will too, but it's good to have that buttoned up.
Is it effluent parameters?
Yeah, like the parts per million of nitrogen.
Mhm. I have to let the engineer look at that. Parts, yeah, okay. Great.
MD per L.
Hmm?
MD per L. Milligrams per liter or parts per million.
Got it. Got it, okay. Is that it for questions?
Yeah, I just have a few comments.
Go ahead.
One of the positive things.
Before you get started,
2 minutes.
like to speak? All right,
Yes.
again, and remember, just
2 minutes.
go ahead.
Yep.
Before you speak, I'll make it clear. This is not a public hearing. You're not giving comments as in a public hearing. Purpose of allowing neighbors to speak during work session is to inform the board of conditions of which the board might not be aware.
That is why, my name is Robert Pine. I am a resident of East Hampton, Springs Fireplace Road. I have two suggestions. One, I'm very much in favor of the screening of this. That is part of the Hamlet plan, that the long, and as much screening as possible should be done, and that it be required to be done in a prompt manner. There are other places along Springs Fireplace where they keep getting an extension of the building permit and don't do the screening. I can think of two, but I'm going to go to the building department and complain about that. The other thing is, since this has an egress, an existing egress onto Washington Avenue, I think it might be worthwhile that you all consider that as part of your approval, they would do some improvements to Washington Avenue so that it is smoother and that it does not have as much dirt and dust that flow out into Springs Fireplace Road from the end just beyond 137. Just to the, I guess it's just to the west of 137 or south of 137. A number of projects have been approved on Washington in the past without any requirement that Washington be approved. And it is a very, very unsightly thoroughfare in that part of, it is an urban renewal road. So those are my two suggestions, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Tina, did you put up the overhead photograph?
I was just gonna, bring up the GIS.
Did you want to respond to that? It's Washington that curves.
Yeah, this is it. I'm sorry, I can't move this right now, but if you could see, this is Washington Avenue. It is a dirt road right now. And there's a kind of steep slope coming up here from Springs Fireplace and a curve, and there certainly are, depressions and such in the roadway.
How many establishments are on that road besides the applicant?
I did not count, but here's, these appear, I think these two are linked just based on property ownership, and there's one here. It continues down to, so several businesses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 approximately.
Just run the cursor over the applicant so that we're.
Sure.
Which one it is.
It is this one right here.
Okay.
Here, I'll select them.
Magic.
Yeah, right here.
So at such time as the original lot was developed and the curb cut made out to Washington Avenue, that would have been the time to assign road work on Washington Avenue. There have been assignments back there. There haven't been enough assignments. All the lots are now developed. So any work that Jim Shelley was to do back there now wouldn't hold up because no one's going to finish it. So you have a little piece of drainage and some RCA put down, and the trucks that drive through there are just going to destroy it. And no one else is coming through with a new application to do more work to complete the road. It really needs to go into the town system and be done by the town. That's the only way it's going to get completed in the way that it would be done well enough for the type of commercial vehicles that utilize that road every day.
In the usage, I know you have a narrative that's coming up. Okay. That the usage by the applicant, it's not going to be trucks.
No.
It's the.
No, but everyone else back there's
Right,
trucks.
I understand.
A lot
So-
of heavy equipment.
Right, but your particular applicant, it's motor vehicle, cars.
Yeah, passenger vehicles.
Passenger vehicles.
Yes. And the other thing is we plan on doing a really good screening job where we've contacted a native plant company, and that will be before you the next time we come in. So that should satisfy the neighborhood as well.
Very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, those were two of my points that I wanted to cover is the screening. I think that's really important. I think the most important thing is that they adhere to the town's groundwater policy. There's a couple of, I mean, all of these points in the policy are important, but there's some that I would want to emphasize. The first one, which is the floor of the building should be pitched to a central location point. And also important is the epoxy sealer that's required for the floor. And the inspection by the town engineer to ensure that the embedded water stop has been installed prior to pouring the concrete floor. But every one of these items should be adhered to. I think that's extremely important, as well as the buffer, as I said. One positive point is that we're eliminating a curb cut, so that's a good thing. I don't know what's happening with that truck spot. I mean, it says that it's 28 feet, but 40 feet is required, so I don't know what you do about that. You can't allow something that is 12 feet undersized, so I'm not sure how that's going to be handled. And also, we need to demonstrate how that truck is going to turn, how it's going to navigate. As far as the parking setbacks, I toured the area. I don't think, because of the other commercial, industrial properties that are adjacent to those parking spaces, I would be in agreement to waive the setback requirement. And getting back to the buffer, I think we do need the applicant said they would provide it, but I think it's important that we get exactly what kind of plants are going to be there and the timing, as Mr. Pine had requested. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good application, and I don't see any real problems with it. I think we can move forward if we get these other resolved.
Anybody else have anything they want to add on this?
Another I would like to know more about what the town can do for that road, Washington Avenue. I went there a couple days ago, and describing it as unimproved doesn't do justice to the 1,000 potholes there. And it was a rainy day, so it wasn't dusty, but yeah, it's a mess back there. And if I got my car fixed, I wouldn't want to go driving out that way. So I'm just curious what, if anything, and how, and what speed the town can
Absolutely
do.
unsightly, and it's filthy. I'm so surprised that the planning board in the past hasn't required applicants to.
Mr. Pine, you're either going to be up here or not. So, but we heard you on that. So you don't need to.
And the problem's always been that it's not fair to saddle one applicant with the work of doing.
Well, it needs to be an entire improvement.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look, that's why I wanted to see the overhead, because if you look at it, it's a very, very small portion of Washington that fronts the applicant's property. I think I hear Randy chiming in.
Well, they could they could set up a special improvement district, which would, all of the property owners that benefit would pay taxes to their special improvement district to improve the road if they want to. They can initiate that. There's also people in that stretch that could grade the road if they wanted to. I don't see this as, I think if they want the town to take it over, they should probably set up a special improvement district, improve the road to town specs, and then see if the highway department would accept it. But that's just a thought on the road.
In terms of what the planning board can do, is there any, I would, is there nothing that the planning board can do? Other than maybe make a recommendation to the town?
Seems like that.
I think it's up to these private businesses to maintain the road in a way that doesn't adversely impact their businesses right now.
It's on them.
They're happy with it.
Let's
The other thing I just want to add is, so obviously as part of the narrative, I think just to describe what's going to happen with that truck, so that we could put our minds around the size and if it makes sense.
And just on that point, I think all the important stuff has already been raised by Lou, but the truck thing is sort of like a little dangling issue here. I mean, is it because you've self-defined that as self-parking, that suddenly it's an issue? Truck parking, rather? That's become an issue because you've said it is that? You know, this is not like a supermarket.
And it's not up to code. That's.
Well, it is, but is truck parking per se
Does
required?
she need to even put a truck
That's
parking
a good
spot?
question.
Yeah, I think we've self-defined our way into an issue perhaps here,
You think
because
you
this
know
isn't a supermarket.
I will point out, this is a repair garage. I believe they specialize in particularly valuable older cars. I would anticipate that at some point a tow truck is going to bring one of those vehicles to this site.
But is it,
I
is
think
it
it's
required
important on
that
the
they,
site
that
plan.
they offer a truck space? Do you
I'm
know?
sorry?
Does the code require?
Yes.
repair space?
Yeah.
Oh, it
Truck
does.
space?
Yeah.
And that's really for the purpose of making deliveries.
That's true. Yeah. But in this case, this unique use, I think it's especially warranted.
It's likely.
And I think don't they have more than the car parking than is required? So they might be able to use space 22 there. You know, just eliminate space 22 and make it comply with the code requirement.
Well, it looks like there's something in between 22 and 23, yeah.
This is the shed that's being removed.
Oh, that's being removed, so
Yeah.
it'll be an open space there.
Well, it seems like the applicant has said they're going to address that issue.
So when the next time up, we'll see something with a little greater clarity.
Thank you.
I also just want to say, we saw this once before and, I mean, look, I think this is a positive application. They were sort of developing this site separately and maintaining their separate entrance, I believe. And I think this is a result of our comments. And if you look at repair garages, they're overflowing all over the place. I think this is a legitimate attempt to try to make it more orderly and frankly, a benefit to people. So
yeah,
the truck, you know, I think we want to solve the truck issue, but I don't want anybody to think that this is like a overreach. I think it's a good project and I think that you're close and I certainly support it.
And they have satisfactory parking for all the vehicles that'll be spending the night.
I think that's the whole genesis.
Yeah,
of the
sure,
project.
absolutely.
There is if we're designing.
Randy, hold on, Luke.
Okay.
I just want to make a point on that Washington Avenue Road. It seems, and you know, maybe Mr. Pine can comment on this, but it seems that road is used only by the businesses that are on that road. So how would that?
This is, yeah.
It's not for a project.
You know what?
Right now,
You know,
It has-
we're dangerously close to making it a public hearing, doing this. All right, seriously. I mean, I appreciate that you want to have comments.
well, Mr. Calderon, I'd be happy to take you back there if you would like to visit it.
It was a combination.
We're married.
Any
so-
one or two of them.
It has an ingress and egress
Right.
at both ends onto Springs Fireplace Road. So it is
Yeah.
a public thoroughfare to the extent that you can access it going in and out.
Right.
Two, the hill leading up to the south end part of the road is steep and it's very rutted. And therefore gravel, dust, mud flow out into the curb drain along the new Springs Fireplace Road. And it just adds to the dirt and the air pollution, if you want to use that, of anyone that goes through there.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go through the questions and give the applicant some final guidance.
Sam?
Oh, I'm sorry, Randy. Yes, you had something else. Go ahead.
Just quickly, again, I agree with everybody about the truck being kind of a dangling thing, but as Ian said, not, it's basically, it's a good application. But if they want a long truck to be able to get in, I'm wondering if it can also come in the egress off Fireplace and make that left turn. So that's just another aspect of the truck. And are we going to approve a site plan that says only trucks of a certain length? So anyway, it's still a question. The only other thing I wanted to say before you get to your questions is those spaces 7, 8, 9, 10 are shown right up to the property line, which I get, and then there's those little triangles that are left out. And it seems to put spaces right up to the property line. If they did that on both sides, you'd have this sort of huge parking area. So it'd be nice if there was some screening either in those little triangles and maybe with a stockade fence to separate those two lots. That's all.
Right now, they probably park parallel. So that we on our next go round, we can get into that. All right, do we agree that the layout of the site plan, including those elements that require waiving of the parking setback requirements? Do we agree with the layout?
Yes.
Okay, all around. Should the applicant provide the information requested in the January 27, 2022 post-meeting memo? And we've heard that we'll have that. Should the applicant provide a narrative with additional details regarding the operation of the auto repair garage parking configuration and parking layout? We have that, right? Should the applicant demonstrate compliance with the planning board groundwater protection policy? I'm sure they'll say yes. Does the planning board require the applicant to confirm that they will meet the town nitrogen removal requirements? Yeah. And that's a yes. And does the planning board agree that a landscaping plan is required, which the applicants already indicated will be forthcoming?
Can I add one question?
Go ahead.
Would the planning board like to reach out to the superintendent of highways, Steve Lynch, in light of the conditions on Washington Avenue and flag it as a problem?
Sure.
And see what comments he might offer you?
Yeah, that's
as far as solutions.
Good guidance. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
All right, very good. Well, now we have leaped past the 7 p.m. Public hearing time. So who has the good fortune of leading the
Minor problem, we don't have the file here for the.
Don't I have? Oh, shoot. Is it online?
It's on the web.
I can find it for you.
Yeah, why don't we do that? What's Lou going to do? Stand in front of the screen or something and?
Yeah,
He probably has a memory.
pull it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't we all?
Read that computer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
we
do
did
you, where do you?
Town of,
where do you find
Town of
it?
East Hampton,
I don't see it
I got my
there.
money on Eric.
agendas and minutes.
Eric's gonna do it.
But I can do it myself.
I have a website.
Michael always has that computer with him.
What's the
I got my
name?
It's time to shine.
Okay, right, it's just a moment.
We got $100.
Tim Hampton Art Studio.
It's not listed. in the-
Yeah.
You have it?
No, I'm sorry, I was in the restroom, but are you looking for?
Yes.
We're looking for that.
She beat us all.
Very
She's
much.
here. She
There
wants
you
to make
go.
sure it gets read.
We're going back to
She's
tape.
here.
We're back to the 20th century. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Read it in.
Public hearing notice. Take notice that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board at Town Hall, 159 Pantego Road, East Hampton, on Wednesday, January 11, 2023, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the application of 60 Skimhampton Road Artist Studio approval pursuant to Article 11 of Chapter 255 of the East Hampton Town Code to construct a personal artist studio. The studio will be used for paintings, with the first floor being a designated workspace and painting space, and the basement being used for storage. The property contains 54,639 square feet, 1.2543 acres, and is located at 60 Skimhampton Road, Amagansett, and is situate in a resident zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton, and is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as parcel number 300-189-3-19.1. A survey prepared by Saskis Surveying Company, PC, dated revised September 13, 2022, and a set of plans prepared by J. Pontieri, PE, DPC, dated revised August 12, 2022, including cover sheet, code sheet A-001, door window schedules A-002, proposed floor plans A-100, proposed roof plan A-101, proposed elevations A-200, proposed sections A-300, electrical plans E-100, structural plans S-100, and roof structural plans S-101 are available for inspection at the Planning Board Office, Suite 103, 300 Pantego Place, East Hampton, New York. The public hearing will be held live and in person by the Planning Board and will be available electronically by video and teleconferencing, and will be televised on local TV, LTV Channel 22, and available for live stream on the LTV website, www.ltveh.org. The public shall be permitted to appear in person, but may also provide comments on the matter being heard by calling 351-888-6331. Any person or party wishing to be heard with respect to the foregoing may do so in person or by agent or by attorney or by call-in to the live stream or by written comment addressed to the Planning Board, 300 Pantego Place, Suite 103, East Hampton, New York, 11937. Comments may also be submitted to the Planning Board by email to planningboard@ehamptonny.gov. All comments must be received by the Planning Board by the date and time of the public hearing. This notice is dated December 7, 2022. Samuel Kramer, Chairman.
Thank you, Lou. Do we have jurisdiction?
Yes, Chair, I reviewed the affidavit of service and posting, and it does appear that it was properly noticed.
Will? Let's hear.
Okay, so this was an application to construct a personal artist studio on the property, as you can see on the survey there. The studio will be used for paintings, with the first floor being a designated work and painting space, and the basement being used for storage. The parcel is located on Skimhampton Road in Amagansett. It's currently improved with an existing two-story residence with a porch and deck, an existing swimming pool with an attached concrete patio, a shed, and an existing detached frame garage. And it was determined at the previous meeting, like, that all elements of this application were ready for approval and ready to be scheduled for public hearing. So basically where it stands now is whether the board finds that the proposed artist studio's proximity to the neighboring property to be sufficient, and otherwise, leaving it to the public, basically.
That's it. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, are there any members of the public who wish to be heard with respect to this application? Hearing none. LTV, is there anybody in queue?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, if you can make a motion.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed, 7-0.
Thank you, board, and thank you, Will, for your service.
Thank you for bringing the public hearing.
Yes, thank you for
My
that.
pleasure, my pleasure.
Your public service. If you'd like it back, you can.
It's okay.
For your fun. All right, so we have 2 matters left. We have the Montauk Beach House 3, and then we have those regular meeting issues on the Wayne Scott Commercial Center.
What about Whitmore, Sam?
Oh, I'm sorry, Randy. Whitmore has been removed from tonight's agenda at the applicant's request.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Ms. Burke is here on this one also. Very well. Okay, Eric. go ahead.
Sure. Are you out of there?
I just love that.
He's throwing you out of your chair.
Okay, so this is an application to permit an already constructed roughly 210 square foot wood deck to remain. I will call up the plan for you. Parcel situated in downtown Montauk in zone CB. It contains a legally pre-existing non-conforming resort use.
Hold on, let me interrupt. Well, again, thank you for your service from the board. We appreciate it. Good luck in your future endeavors. Seriously.
Thanks to you guys too.
Thank you. Thank you. Okey-dokey.
Okay. Let me I gotta connect here. So anyway, I guess I'll mention, this is a type 2 action under secret, as you might expect, only being a 210 square foot structure. As the name of the application would suggest, being Montauk Beach House 3, this is sorry, can't walk and chew gum at the same time or talk and find this thing here. Just want to put the survey up for you. Okay. So there were a number of previous site plan applications that were approved fairly recently on this property. The most recent one was in May of last year, 2022. At that time, the subject of that site plan application was this covered service area and trellis with seating. This is actually the identical survey that was approved by the planning board as part of that site plan application. And you can see the structure that is the subject of this request is this wood deck that was illustrated on that survey that was part of the approved site plan and also was accounted for in the total lot coverage calculation. So technically, in a sense, the planning board has already seen this structure, at least as far as it's depicted on the survey. However, the application itself didn't include that structure. It mentioned the service area, the covered trellis area, but it wasn't specifically called out that wood deck was part of the subject of approval. Subsequently, after that site plan approval, the building department went to perform the routine inspection for a CO and found that wood deck came into existence after the last CO was granted, which was 2013. So basically, the applicants were directed to come back to the planning board, to get approval for that structure. Basically, we have no objection to this. It does qualify as a minor site plan, meaning you can waive the public hearing requirement. The only thing that we would point out is just as you can see on this survey, the wood deck is not labeled as a proposed structure, which is something that you normally have on a site plan. Given everything that I said of the fact that the survey was already the subject of a previous site plan approval and the minor nature of the structure, which the applicants also submitted a picture of it, which I'll show you. We have no objection and you can waive that requirement. So that's really the two main things that we see is whether or not you find this site plan acceptable and whether or not you want to waive the public hearing.
Yeah, you put up that picture. It'll be helpful. Do you wish to be heard?
Tara Burke, Lighthouse Land Planning, here on behalf of Montauk Beach House. Eric summarized it really well. I think we've all looked at this survey so many times that sometimes when you have a new set of eyes on it, and that's basically what happened at the CO inspection. The inspector pointed out to me that that wasn't on the survey. None of us knew it, or wasn't on the approval from 2013. So we're just looking to legalize that little section of decking.
Is that connected to a room, a guest room? Is that
No,
what
that's actually, it's like a gift shop. And that was approved as part of, I guess it was like the 2012 site plan approval, I think.
Okay, so in other words, so what is it? The idea is that basically that extra decking is there so that people don't fall off?
Pretty much. There used to be little steps there and I think it just got tight. So they put the deck there.
So Tara, obviously it was permitted and all that stuff when it was built.
No, the deck wasn't built legally. That small section of deck.
It wasn't on the CO.
It wasn't on the CO from 2013.
But it also was, there was no building permit.
There was no building. It showed up at some point. Anytime you do a change on a commercial property, typically it requires site plan approval before the building permit. So we obviously would have put it in with the last application had we known, we just didn't realize it was there. So.
Anything else? Ms. Burke, anything else on that?
That's it.
Okay, Lou?
Yeah, this is like an oops moment. But it's not a big deal. So it's more like an administrative thing now. And so I agree with the planning department that we should just approve it.
And how do you feel about the public hearing?
Oh, no need for public hearing.
Just put a good word in for the deck fair to come by my house too.
There's gonna be sprinkling a lot of fairy dust. Okay. Does anyone have anything you want to add on this one? No. Randy, you don't have anything? Last chance. He wins. The screen may be frozen there. Oh, he's blinking. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, that's a no.
That's the cry for help.
All right, so yeah, you're good. And no public hearing. All right. Last, we're done with the work session, and we will move into the regular meeting. We have two items on regarding the Wainscott Commercial Center. First is to schedule the public hearing. I ordinarily we just read in the motion, the resolution, but I want to just air this out in front of the board or with the board. We can either do the public hearing here in Town Hall, or we can do it at LTV. I understand that LTV has availability on February 8th, which is the date that we're talking about. The LTV room, if you've never been there, is considerably larger than this room and will accommodate at least twice as many people. So the first thing we need to decide is whether we want it here or there. The second thing we need to talk about is whether we want to have one single session. Ordinarily, most public hearings do one session, or, as is all right, to have two sessions. One advantage to having two sessions we would have, I guess, would be, Eric, what are we talking about a start time, 3:30 or?
This says 3 to.
3.
Yeah.
What's written here is 3 to 5:30.
The original idea was, 3 to 5:30 and then 6:30 to 9.
Okay.
A total of 5 hours.
Two sessions. Well, either two sessions here or two sessions there. or one session here or one session. We have like, we have four choices and we can, pick and choose among them. One of the advantages of having the hearing in two parts is that if people, often older people don't want to be able to go out, don't want to go out late at night or later at night, make it in the afternoon. I understand, I wasn't in attendance, but I understand that at the Waynescott CHC meeting, which was conducted virtually the other day, there was something like 50 people at the CHC meeting who indicated an intention to speak. And the other issue is, again, where to hold it. There's nothing that says that we have to hold it in town hall. It's not unheard of for public hearings in matters of considerable public interest to be held in the vicinity of where the application is situated. Sometimes it's done in a high school auditorium. I talked to counsel, to Dan Russo earlier today, and he said it's not unusual to do it in the area where it's being done like I just said, in the high school. But again, I think that's something that we should talk about. When maybe we could do it in, two parts. One, where, and two, whether we should do two meetings or two sessions. Thank you. So I put it up to somebody.
I mean, I think the idea of a bigger space is a good idea. I mean, I think there are people who are also fearful of what's going on with COVID right now too. So it would just allow people to spread out and be a little bit more mindful of that. So I think a bigger space would be a good idea. And whether it's a whole hour in between or just maybe an intermission or something, I think full disclosure, I will not be here that day. I am away. So maybe I should not be the one that makes a decision on time stuff.
Well, I guess that means I'll be reading it in.
Well, should we maybe take a vote on the LTV part of it, just to get?
Yeah, we could. Well, does anyone else have anything they want to say on that?
Are we going to talk about when to hear
Well, the date is February 8th.
There's no change.
I should add there, and Eric can give us a little more background. Under SECRA, we have timetables within which we must conduct the public hearing. So I think February 8th is about as far out as it'll go.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So given our schedule. So it has to be February 8th.
And it's the date of a regular meeting.
And it's the date of a regular meeting, and I guess what that means is it'll be the only thing on the agenda.
Yes, that's the plan.
Yeah, okay. So,
Eric, you had given me those dates. It's 45 days, I think you said, from.
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me, but if I remember correctly, when we worked it out, I think the cutoff would be the Tuesday after February 8th.
Which is
so you would have 6 days after.
Periods.
I'm sorry?
That's the 45-day period.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
What triggers the 45 days?
It's a secret mandated requirement of when you deem the DEIS complete, of when you're required to hold the public hearing.
So, and we did that on December 12th.
And then we have 60 days from that public hearing to make a decision on the application.
It is dependent upon a number of factors, but that is the rough guideline. I can call up secret for you and quote the sections if you want, but depending upon things that may come up at the public hearing, those timeframes may change. But yeah, that is the rough guideline.
Yeah, and we also have a comment period. Is it the comment period?
Yeah.
February 28th?
Yes.
So a public comment period.
Sam, what about Zoom? Are people going to be able to Zoom in testimony?
I think I don't know if it's Zoom or phone call. What's the resolution say?
Well, I'm going to have to Zoom in because I'm not going to be in town either.
You know, either.
I'm
going to be listening to it if I can.
I believe LTV has the capability at their studio for either or both.
Yeah.
Well, for members to Zoom in.
I think for anybody. I think we can set it up.
On my concern, most particularly
It's a call. So they're going to be.
They're going to call it. The public will be calling it.
We don't have to be on Zoom. We can just watch it live stream.
Just listen
Yeah,
anyway.
we can just live stream it for wherever we are.
Well, do we need a quorum?
I was going to say, I believe you need a quorum.
And that would be 4 of us. So if the 2 of you are not going to be there, then that, and that's a live quorum, right?
Yes, absolutely.
that's-
All right, so Randy,
I'll be
you'll
there.
make sure that you'll be there and
I'll
all
be
the
there,
rest
yeah.
of us, because
I'll be-
we'll only have room for one of us to be missing. And, so
I'll be there.
everybody.
Sam, so that people will, this, what I'm wondering is, does our hearing notice have to say that we're accepting testimony by phone or Zoom?
No, it's not
No,
Zoom. The notice
by
doesn't
phone.
permit Zoom.
Just by phone?
It's phone, yeah. So,
So they'll be able to call in and that'll be in the record?
right, that's
Yes.
correct.
And of course, for the board's benefit and anybody listening, obviously, written comments can be submitted
Right.
at any time, currently up until the 28th
Yeah,
It
of
might even be
February.
more helpful because it's in the file permanently. You don't have to
That's right.
watch it.
Yeah,
Replay.
and the timing on it, I believe, is the purview of the chair in terms of how long
Yeah.
people get to speak. And my intention is that it's going to be 3 minutes per person. And I think we're going to need a sign-in sheet. And then after everyone who's signed in has had an opportunity to speak, then if there's still time, then 3 more minutes, or maybe we'll make it less than that for a second go around. Maybe, 2 minutes. So that if anyone feels like they want to say something else. But, one of the thoughts, I mean, look, this is all driven by the fact, but not the fact, but by the supposition that there's going to be a considerable amount of public interest and many people wanting to speak. So
So Sam, if we just think about the math of it, right? So if it's 3 minutes, 50 people is gonna be like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
150 minutes.
then that's the
And that's
ones we
if
know about.
everyone does three minutes and, the in-betweens, all that. So it's probably 40 people or less, right?
Well,
So it seems to me that we probably need, I would say a larger venue and two.
let's decide on the venue first, then we'll decide on whether to do 2 sessions. So I guess you're right. Let's do a vote. Unless anyone has anything else they want to add.
LTV. All right, just a vote.
That's a vote. All right, all those in favor of LTV?
Yes.
Okay, it is LTV. All right, now, 1 session or 2.
It's gonna have to be 2.
I'm good with 2 sessions. I don't know that we should list an end time though, because 5 hours is a lot of time. And if we finish at 7 because everybody already spoke, then,
Well, then we go home.
well, I don't know. I think perhaps we don't have an end time because if somebody showed up at 8:45 and our notice says. it goes
Oh,
to
well,
9.
yeah, you got a good point.
Well, so you're saying, make it one longer
No,
session.
make it 2
essentially.
sessions and note the start time, but when people stop,
Oh, okay.
when people stop speaking, I think it's over, whether
That's
that's,
true. We don't have like a end session on any of our other.
we
public
never,
hearings.
Yeah,
we never
all right,
say
well,
that.
Well, what if we don't close the hearing? Let's say there's 100 people that haven't spoken. Can we have, keep the hearing open?
Can we
Yeah,
reschedule for another day?
I think I think we would have to prolong it. I'm talking about the opposite, Randy, where maybe everyone has spoken and it's not yet 9 o'clock. But then we would have to wait in case somebody showed up at 8:45, I think.
Okay.
That's right.
That's a good point.
That's right. All right, so what if we take out the end time, but add language that says, in the event that at 9 o'clock, all the people who, there are more people wishing to
But we
speak.
don't need that language. do
Well,
we?
no, don't we? Because, do we need to say that there'll be another day? Do we need to?
No, we can just
No,
say
we
that
have to-
right at
We can
that
do it
night.
at the meeting,
Yeah,
we can do that?
Yeah,
We wouldn't close the public hearing and we would,
Yeah, that's right. Just
Okay,
keep it open.
yeah, well, keep it,
yeah.
it's, all right, I'm
But
just,
how do we know
have a
when?
right to object at that point.
No, we can do that. We've done that before.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, how did they know when it's gonna be
Next day,
resumed?
hearing would continue.
No, it would have to be a week
Randy,
later.
give me a moment, I'll get to
Okay.
it. I guess what we would have to do is find out if LTV has further availability, or
Or have it
we'll
here.
come back here.
Mhm.
And when's our next meeting after the 8th?
Well, or maybe we
15th?
stay
It's on the
Fine.
15th.
15th,
It's on the 15th.
I won't be here.
I won't either.
well, maybe we stay past 9, but I mean, 5 hours is a lot of time.
Let me tell you, by 9 o'clock.
If people,
Even
Yeah, I think-
even if all we're doing is listening, it's gonna be,
And that's all we
tough
will
to
be
bear.
doing, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that's, yeah, well, we'll be making that clear, that it's not a Q and A. So, before we take a vote, did you wish to speak on this? Again, this is not a public hearing.
I know. Sarah Davison, Friends of Georgia Capon Foundation, thank you. I just wanted to point out that some of the statements are of a highly technical nature involving studies and whatnot. And 3 minutes in some cases might be a little short. And it would be a shame to break up the statement till the end. I don't know if it's possible for you to have the discretion in the case of a technical expert witness spokesperson to give them a little more time.
So, you know what, that's a good point. And what I just said was what I'm, toying with. Let me think about it. Maybe there's some way to give advance notice or.
I have a suggestion. I'm not sure, Randy, I don't know if Randy wants to talk.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I'll come back to Randy. I'm sorry.
I would say that, we're going to send a notice out to all adjacent property owners. It's going to be in the East Hampton Star. The idea has been put out there of putting a notice of some sort right on the town's main webpage. And I think that perhaps we could do that and encourage anybody who intends to come and speak at the public hearing to notify the planning board ahead of time. That way, perhaps you can get a gauge on the actual participation and the number of people.
Well, then also in the case that something is very technical, of course, we want to hear it, but we're all going to review the file and it'd be really helpful to have that in writing. So I think if it's that kind of scenario,
Well,
not that the two are mutually exclusive, but.
Right, they're not mutually exclusive, but I think if the expert comes to speak and has their written statement to submit, it'd be fair to let them speak. And if they go over 3 minutes, not by much, obviously, it's a long night, but I just think that could be play out here.
Maybe what we can do, and again, we're just, throwing out ideas, is on the website or on the website, ask if any members of the public believe they need more than 3 minutes to let us know. And we're not making any promises, but at least we'll get a sense of, because I appreciate what you're saying.
And maybe they speak later because I think it would also be unfair if people get frozen out.
Right. They can come in, they'll be, we'll hear from the public of on issues that are not highly technical, requiring more than 3 minutes. Let me.
Because some people don't even need 3 minutes.
No, I know. I suspect that. I don't say suspect, but look, what often happens at the public hearings is that somebody says something, the first or second person, and the 5 other people who are going to say that same thing say, well, he said what I was going to say. And so that eliminates a lot of comments. But again, I don't want to discourage by any means anybody from commenting. That's a good point.
Thank you so much.
But sir, can I just
figuring a way out? Go ahead.
I think you probably know better than anyone how many people there might be who will have technical presentations and things to say. I mean, do you have a?
Well, I can think of at least 3.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Of a highly technical, professional level.
Okay.
Let me chew it over and figure out what sounds like the way to go. Randy, I keep cutting you off.
No, I didn't. I didn't. Can you hear me? I didn't not get to say anything. I'm just wondering if your idea of 3-minute limit in the early session and 5 in the later session.
Yeah, it could be something like that, but we have to maybe putting the longer comments after 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. or something like that, because I wouldn't want to give over the entire evening session to longer comments. But let me think about it, and we'll come up with something that I hope will be fair.
I think I do have a question about the board getting advice from the department and our council as to what our options are after the hearing. In other words, is it up or down on what we've been presented with, or are there other options?
After the hearing, then we talked. and we'll get comments from our experts. Those will come in presumably by February 28th, and we'll, talk it over. And I mean, that's the real purpose of the public hearing, is to give us fuel to have a discussion. So I don't know if that's answering your question or not.
Well, I guess I don't know what options are available to the applicant. Like, let's say, for example, that there weren't enough votes to pass it the way it was submitted, but there were enough votes to pass an alternative. Can the applicant?
I think it's like any wrap-up memo, though. We say, hey, have the public comments been addressed? And people might say yes or no. We think because of public comments, it has to be changed in this way. The applicant, I think, can take or leave that.
The applicant's gonna have a right to speak after the public speaks. I mean, that's how we do these public hearings.
Well, and then we're gonna have, a couple weeks of more public comments, and then we need time for the planning department and our experts to digest that, tell us what they think, and then we all decide if the comments have been addressed and if the project's appropriate. And then I think that, we would suggest changes or not.
Yeah, that's
And,
the process.
I mean, if the applicant wants to force an up or down vote, I think they probably could, but.
Well, no, we have to go through the public comment
Well, I
process.
know what I'm saying is they have a complete application, so I think that.
So once we
We're not
go
talking
through all
about
our comments and if we want to make changes or not make changes, does that become the final DEIS?
We have to ultimately create, and it is this board's document.
That creates the
The final
final.
DEIS, yes,
Gotcha.
not
EIS.
EIS, not
EIS,
final
right.
D, yes, final FEIS. That's what we'll do. But, Eric, I'm wondering, if we provide the applicant with an opportunity, as we always do, to give comments after the public speaks, but the public record doesn't close till February 28th, then we wouldn't need to, or really probably wouldn't be advisable to have the applicant give their comments any earlier than February 28th.
Sure.
Well, no, they could probably speak that night, though, if they
Well,
wanted to.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, whether they would speak that night or would they wait?
Yeah,
and speak
the
that
comments may not all be in, right?
night? Well, the written ones may not be.
Yeah.
We always let the applicant address the public comments, not open up new information, but after.
Yeah, but that's usually.
In a very
because-
specific way, not to make new arguments.
Yeah, but that's because, well, one of the reasons I think is because when we close the public hearing, the spoken public hearing, that closes the comment period. And so, but in this case, we have a public comment period that extends 20 days after the scheduled date of the public.
It actually, so I have Secra up on the workstation there. Cannot close the comment period any less than 10 days after the close of the public hearing. So that means you must allow comments to continue for 10 days after the hearing, not, at least.
And right now we have 20 because we're on for February 28th as the end date.
Well, keep in mind, so you have to at least continue to accept comments in theory until February 18th. If the public hearing closes that night. You have 45 days, and I just want to make sure I'm saying this correct. Yeah, okay. You have 45 days after the close of the hearing with which to make a determination of whether or not you're going to accept the draft environmental impact statement as the final environmental impact statement. Now, the only thing that would change you from doing that is if information is brought up at the public hearing within a very narrow scope, and I'm going to read that for you from Secra, in which case you could require a supplemental environmental impact statement. So basically, the lead agency may require a supplemental environmental impact statement limited to the specific significant adverse environmental impacts not addressed or inadequately addressed in the draft environmental impact statement that arise from, and there's three situations. One, changes proposed for the project. So presumably the applicant proposing to change something. Two, newly discovered information. So something that was not, new information that was not addressed in the draft environmental impact statement, or a change in circumstances related to the project. Obviously, that, you know, that's somewhat of a legal, definition. I would assume that that is, you know, significant things of, you know, if part of the property were damaged in some way, or, you know, a meteor hits it, you know what I mean? Would be a hyperbolic example. But if any of those three situations arise from the public comments, whether they be at the public hearing or in anything received to this point, or, you know, up until at least 10 days after the public hearing, then the board will discuss whether or not they are going to require a supplemental environmental impact statement. If that does not happen, 45 days from the close of the public hearing, February 8th, I can't do the math in my head here, but 45 days after that, the board will be required to determine whether or not they're adopting the draft environmental impact statement as the final environmental impact statement. And then subsequent to that, I don't know the exact time, but there's a little bit of time after where you would be compelled to render a decision on the application.
Okay.
What about the and industrial park issue? Would that trigger that number 3 item? That
That's
there
going
would
in
need
front of
to be
zoning
a
board.
supplemental environmental impact statement?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I will intentionally not directly answer your question and guide you to direct that question to council.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we
Don't know.
discussed this
Yeah, we did discuss
previously,
it.
and it was totally separate issue from SECR.
Completely, it just adds a layer of analysis.
It's not a secret.
Eric, to be clear, we could, it's not, there can be edits to the DEIS because there's a draft, so it's not either supplemental or nothing at all, right? We can make changes presumably before we adopt it?
Well, not really, not in that sense. Again, if those situations arise, you can't go back and, you know, I mean, what would the change be? You know, would you be directing
What's
the
the point of
applicant?
public hearing if we can't?
Well,
only to drive a supplemental?
No.
What would you change? You know, would it be
I
a
don't know what's gonna be
finding
said.
of, you know, that the applicant's consultants and their team made in the environmental impact? They presented it. You asked for this. Here's what we provided you. You know what I mean?
Well, hold on, let's not confuse things. But then there's the issue of approving it, correct? Which is a separate question from supplementing it, correct?
Well, yes, but the scope details the items that are in the draft environmental impact statement that's been deemed complete. If nothing new arises that requires an amendment of that document, you would adopt the final environmental impact statement. That does not mean that you are approving or denying the application. Just because the final environmental impact statement says, you know, for example, because applicants will phrase it this way, all those concerns that you had are moot and don't matter. Our document proves that. Just by virtue of the fact of adopting the final environmental impact statement is not an approval or denial of the application.
That's the point.
Yeah, and that comes subsequent to adopting.
I meant to say approval of the application.
So, yeah. So the final environmental impact statement, you know, that's basically just closing the book on, we got all the information that we said we needed, we're ready to make a decision. It
For
doesn't.
this application.
Exactly.
But Eric, Randy brought up a point the last time we discussed this about the applicant not including in their environmental impact statement an alternative commercial industrial site, Bistrian sand pit. So what if something like that arises during the public hearings? So to Ian's question, what do we do then? If we all realize, you know what, they should have submitted an alternative scenario with regard to XYZ topic, and they didn't. So what do we do then?
We've already
We go
approved
back to the
Supplemental.
applicant? Is that a supplemental or is that?
I don't think so, because that issue was already, you already adopted the draft environmental impact statement, and it's not as if it's new information that property exists. I will say the documentation in what they've submitted, They did account for it in their inventory of lots. They didn't account for it in the sense of if it were to be subdivided under the current zoning into whatever the number of lots would be. I reviewed the environmental impact statement, and what they did was basically take, I forget how many lots that property is. I think it's about 5 or something like that. And they basically said, we're treating this as 5 lots and not accounting for a subdivision.
But he doesn't mean this specific case.
Yeah,
His
I'm not
concern is
arguing
mine.
this specific case. I just used that as an analogy or as an example of what could happen during the public hearing.
So something,
Yeah, I
something
don't-
truly new comes up. We just want to be able to make sure
Yeah.
that it gets wrapped into the EIS somehow.
Yeah, you can't
It seems to
revisit.
me like it's supplemental at least, because that's
Well-
new information that requires some explanation.
Operating under just that hypothetical, I don't think so. I don't think that you could require a supplemental, but I think that when you do eventually come to the point where you're required to render a decision, you would be citing that document and saying, this is the information they gave us. We're not confident that they've
So what's the purpose of the
answered that question adequately.
What are we to do with the public hearing comments? What decision does that drive for us to make? I mean,
Whether or
because
not
you're
to-
telling us we either finalize the DEIS, make it final, or new information comes up that requires a supplemental. That's it. Those are the only options.
But it gives us an idea of where the public sentiment is, and it's really, again, more for the approval of the whole project than it is for the EIS. That's the way I'm seeing it.
Remember that.
It's more like the EIS is just gonna be the information that we're using for the application. Whatever, that's just our document, but that doesn't mean anything about how we feel about the project.
Isn't it
Well, it
also the
does,
plat?
because I mean,
it does.
Isn't it also the plat?
I mean,
We're
it
also
does,
having
but it
public hearing.
doesn't,
I'm sorry?
Aren't we also
it-
having public hearing on the plat?
That's correct.
So it's, so to the extent that.
Well, I know, but the public hearing is explicitly about the DEIS as well as the plat, so
Yeah.
there has to
Well,
be something we can do.
But
with
they're
this now.
different time clocks. This is something we have to pay attention to, that the state law has a different time clock for preliminary map hearing and approval versus SECRA DEIS and approval. So there's 2 layers, and if it turns out they need a special permit, we haven't done anything to look at the special permit standards and whether or not we would issue a special permit for this plan.
But how does that impact the plan, the public hearing?
It's a good question, and one that I would leave for you to ask counsel.
But presumably, eventually, we have an EIS that has been adopted. That is then the environmental impact statement, and we use that information to apply to our standards, whether it's site plan standards or site plan standards plus special permit. The information we're going off of is the same. It's just our code standards. It adds an extra layer. So I don't think there's anything.
I believe that that's a pretty accurate, description of the
It's not like there'd
situation.
be anything new they'd have to put in there
Yeah.
because we require a special permit. We would just apply that information differently.
Yeah, I mean, if from day one they had applied for a special permit for a planned industrial park, and the argument, the reasoning for sending it to the ZBA is that we suspect it does based on that definition, or at least there's a question as to whether it does require one. Basically, as you put it, the information you'd be asking for would be largely the same. I mean, I don't have to tell you how, large the documents are that are in front of you. I'm not sure exactly what other information you would ask for. They have, in fact, as submitted like hypothetical site plans showing, proposed different uses throughout the subdivision. So yeah, I think that's well put. It's really, I don't know that there's additional information that you would need to show, to determine whether or not to grant a special permit in this case, beyond what's already been submitted. But yes, it would trigger those additional special permit standards. And that would also factor in along with the subdivision standards. And Randy makes a good point. He was mentioning the timelines, but of differentiating and saying that this is complicated because you have both the state SECRA requirements and your subdivision requirements, at least for now. So ultimately, if this application is going to be approved, setting aside the special permit standards for now, this board would have to find that it meets all the subdivision standards, but then also all the standards that are in SECRA when you're going to ultimately make a negative declaration, you know, if you are going to do that.
Well, to the extent that there's two different timelines, which one is quicker?
I think the SECRA one is really the one that's dictating the process.
All right, so so what I don't want to have happen is while we're approaching the secret deadline, another deadline expires ahead of that.
It won't. The deadline to render a decision would be 62 days under town regulations, but it's 45 to adopt the final and then
So
render
the
a decision.
62 is
after that.
outside the 45?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's no date. Okay.
And they begin the date of the public hearing.
Well, if you close the hearing
The
on
close,
that
I
day,
mean,
yeah.
the close, right, okay.
So let me just reiterate, just to get this right. So the reason that we don't finalize the EIS before the public hearing, because, you know, we said that really the comments are going to pertain to whether or not our final decision, whether to approve or not, or to deny. But it's possible, the reason we have it before we finalize it, because it's possible that something may come up during the public
Exactly,
hearing
right.
that would trigger that number 3 item, which will require a supplement. But other than that, all these comments are really mostly to
Guide your decision
decide
on the
On the
application.
yeah.
Yeah, not the completeness of the document.
We've
But
already.
remember though, that the court, if you read some of the court decisions, they're not necessarily interested in how many people like it or don't like it.
Of course.
The secret hearing is about new information or missing information.
Mhm.
So don't think that we're gonna make up our mind based on whether this is popular or not.
No, that's always the case with public hearings. And it's always, you know, something that we as a planning board have to be careful to navigate around.
And make clear.
And make clear, yes, absolutely. So, all right, so with that,
So how do you want me to read
well, let
this
me ask you this, first of all, do you think, I'm thinking about what you said about the close. I don't think that it's such a big deal for us to keep open till 9 o'clock, because for one thing, I think that we're gonna get that far. Second of all, if we do have an extended period for the expert comments, we'll probably, you know, get started with that later and then go to 9 o'clock or close to it. In other words, I don't think there's a lot of danger in our sitting around with nothing to do till 9 o'clock.
Or you could, what if, this is just a compromise, I don't care if you adopt it or not, but what if you say it's up to 9 o'clock unless all comments have been.
Yeah, if you're giving the people from 6 to 9, that means that they can come in at 8:59.
Sure seems pretty unlikely that we're gonna hear everybody and not have leftover, and it's gonna be exactly at 9, like we're either gonna be short. or
I think
long.
the greater
So,
likelihood
it
is
seems like
we're gonna be sitting there at
bad
8:59 with a half a dozen or more.
Well, then I would say we go past 9 to get to.
And then we can decide that on the fly, right then
Yeah,
and
we
there.
don't need that.
In a regular public
Yeah.
hearing, if no one else has anything to say, we close it.
Well, that's because we don't listen.
That's because we don't have a close time, but.
Yeah,
Well, oh, true.
One thing to consider too, is that, you know, I mean, for example, on most of your hearing notices, it'll say, you know, 7 o'clock or as soon as you hear after, and it doesn't set a close time.
No, that's the point.
So yeah, exactly. I'm reiterating kind of what you're saying here, but you know, if you're going to say 3 to 5:30, you want to, you know, have it spelled out in the public hearing resolution that it's going to end at 5:30 and then begin again at 6:30. But then you don't have to say it ends at 9.
I like that.
Yeah.
You know,
I like that.
and we can go into the night.
6:30.
I think that's right. No close time for the second session.
Well, I'm not, listen,
What if it goes to
it
11?
might,
Okay.
it might.
Well, we can, actually, you know, well, Michael,
But
we
if
can,
there's 20 people left, you can make a decision with
Yes,
carrying this
exactly.
on.
That's
you
right.
know.
yes.
And what,
I'm not gonna, you know, this is the way it is. I want consensus on this from the board.
so do we, what is the address of LTV Studios?
It's a good question.
Matt?
75 Industrial Road.
Thank you. I was actually
Your hat.
talking to Matt.
Yeah, I know, well, yeah, I'll make sure he goes.
All right, so I can read it.
Yeah, so we all agree on 2 sessions at LTV, correct? Everyone?
Yeah.
Thumbs up from Randy. Okay, you're on.
Okay, in the matter of the application of Wayne-Scott Commercial Center preliminary subdivision, tax map number 300-192-2-6.22, 6.7. There's a resolution to schedule a public hearing, which will be held at LTV Studios on 75 Industrial Road in East Hampton.
Wayne Scott.
Wayne Scott. The Township of East Hampton.
Yes.
And it will be on Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. It will be split into 2 sessions. The first one from 3 to 5:30. There'll be an intermission and then it'll resume again at 6:30 p.m. I've read this resolution and move for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, 7-0. Okay. Now, the other issue we have is the referral to the ZBA. And Nancy, if I get this wrong, please jump in and correct me. Last time out, we agreed that there should be a referral to the planning chief building inspector. I'm sorry, the chief building inspector. And there was, I think the vote on that was 5-2. Because 2 of us wanted to go directly to the ZBA. We were advised by council that we could either go make the request to the chief building inspector or make the request for the interpretation to the ZBA. And we voted 5-2. I'm pretty sure it was 5-2 to send it to the chief building inspector, which is the usual way we do these interpretations. But an issue has come up because I guess because of the language, Nancy, of the chief
That's my
building
understanding
inspector's
of it, yes.
memorandum to me. I'm going to read the memorandum out. All right, it was dated December 16th from Ann Glennon to me. In response to your memo dated December 15th, 2022, for a determination with respect to an industrial park at the above referenced property, referring to the Wayne Scott Commercial Center. After a review of the paperwork and East Hampton Town Zoning Code and 255 Attachment 5 Note 2, I am requesting that this go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for an interpretation based off section 255-8-30A parentheses 4. Period, paragraph. If I can be of further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact me.
And I will note, just for clarity, that that was a typo. The part 4 of that section is meant to be part 3.
Part 3, okay.
So.
Be that as it may, the language of this has created some uncertainty. I understand that the applicant favors a resolution.
Yes.
Rather than this referral. So what we have now before us is a referral to the Zoning Board of Appeals rather than what we did last time on December 15th. And so now there's a well, it's not a motion.
Resolution.
There's a resolution
Right.
to refer the matter to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And again, last time, 2 of us voted.
Can we read this resolution? I haven't had a chance to see it. I just want to hear what it says.
Do you want me to read
It's
it out?
very
Oh, I mean, it's very short.
It's short, it's short.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, but we
no,
all have the resolution. I mean, the
well,
resolution's posted.
Randy, do you have it?
No, I don't. But I probably have it. If Jody put it online, I'll have it. But I'll just.
Sharon has graciously agreed to read it out.
It's
So,
not long.
Go ahead.
Okay, in the matter of the application of Wayne Scott Commercial Center preliminary subdivision, tax map number 300-192-2-6.2 to 6.7. This is a referral to the Zoning Board of Appeals that reads, whereas Wayne Scott Commercial Center LLC owner has made application for preliminary subdivision approval pursuant to chapter 220 subdivision of land and chapter 193 open space of the East Hampton Town Code to divide a 3 3 million, 3,071,497 square foot, around 70 acres into 50 lots, with most lots around an acre in size, and the southernmost lots, number 21 and number 22, to be around 4.5 acres in size and contain an existing ready-mix concrete plant, and to be around 6.5 acres in size and contain an existing masonry and tile supply yard respectively. The parcel is located on the north side of Montauk Highway, Waynescott, and is situated in a commercial industrial CI zoning district as shown on the official zoning map of the town of East Hampton. Premises are identified on the Suffolk County tax map parcel as 300-192-2-6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.7, 6.6, 6.7. And whereas over the course of the application process, an issue has arisen as to whether a special permit is required for the proposed planned industrial park, and the planning board requests an interpretation from the zoning board of appeals on that matter. Now, therefore, be it resolved that pursuant to Town Code 255-8-30A, Part 3, the planning board seeks an interpretation as to whether a special permit is required from the zoning board of appeals.
Is there a second?
No, not the zoning board of appeals. Oh, I see. In other words, we want the zoning board of appeals to tell us whether or not a special permit is required before the planning board.
That's right.
Is there a second?
Is that unclear there?
No,
No, pretty clear. Pretty
it's clear.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Eric, will you be explaining this to the zoning board? Just,
Randy, it's either a yes or no, please.
yeah, well, I'm a yes.
You said
but
yes?
I just want to make
I
sure.
apologize, Randy. I didn't see an eye up there.
No.
No, it's seven. Randy, you voted yes?
Yeah.
My bad. I
That we
apologize.
refer it
Oh,
direct.
let me report it out. Give me a second. Passed 7-0. Okay, go ahead.
That's all.
Well, there
Given
will be, no, you will be
Ran-
present at the zoning board.
Yes,
Eric will be present at the zoning board.
Yeah,
hearing.
and that is, just for everybody's benefit, tentatively scheduled for February 7th,
Oh, wow.
the day before
Ah.
your public hearing.
Wow.
So we'll actually,
And thankfully, we have a great zoning board we can trust to handle their business.
Mhm.
there you go. All right, folks, thanks very much. We have nothing else. Randy, you have anything else?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Sorry about that. I didn't hear you say aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second? All those in favor?